There are a lot of different ways to cast on with a single yarn, and one of the most common ways is what's called the simple cast on. Let me turn this way. And a simple cast on basically is you wrap the yarn around your index finger and make a sort of script letter E, or you wrap your yarn around the thumb and make a script letter E. This kind of cast on creates a half hitch, and it's a simple cast on. It does work. It's useful for 2 or 3 or half a dozen stitches. When you're casting on more, there can be a tendency as you work the stitches for them to stretch out and become uneven. One of the options and solutions to this is to cast on 1 or 2 fewer than you need. So if you need to cast on 20 stitches and you want to use this cast on 18. After you've worked about 9 stitches or so, you might find that there's a huge gap between the stitches, and then you can use this to simply twist the yarn on, make up your extra stitch, and this keeps the cast on from becoming too loose or sloppy. This cast on, because it has a tendency to become too loose, is often the preferred one for lace. However, there's another variation of this, and I'd like to show it to you because it has 2 options. And by 2 options I mean casting on with the needle in your right hand or casting on with the needle in your left hand. And sometimes this can be useful if you're doing a cast on in the middle of a row. Instead of having to take your knitting that you've been knitting onto the left hand, from the left hand needle onto the right, or you've just finished a row, you would sometimes want to be able to just cast on right here instead of turning your work. So let's do this. Instead of having a simple cast on, we want to have what's called a double twist, or a full twist. And to do this, we take our standard loop, and instead of going into the loop, we go under the loop. Then we come back and pick up the loop. There we go, and there's our full twist. So let's do that again. Wrap it as if we're going to do a simple. Go under both yarns, come back. Now, I was going to say, when it's stretched out, it looks like a fancy letter A. See, a script capital A with a loop around your thumb. But the important thing is you have a full twist here. And those of you who know the twisted cast on, long-tail cast on, that's sometimes called the Norwegian twisted and sometimes called the German twisted, and I just call it twisted cast on, uses this same base and uses this same motion to create the base stitch for the long-tail cast on. So that's how we do it if we want to do it this way. But did you know how easy it was to do the other way? You do basically the same thing. You make your cast on, and instead of going in here, there's our script letter E, we go under and then fold our finger over. We have our full twist, and we do it again. We go under, fold the yarn over, and we have our cast on. Now, a full twist is a much more stable cast on. That twist is like a shock absorber. It absorbs the extra yarn and releases energy. And this is why a twisted long-tail, German twisted, Norwegian twisted, old Norwegian, whatever you want to call it, has a more stable base. It is because it has that twist which stretches and shrinks and compacts and allows you to have some things. So here's another way. As I say, you make your twist, put the needle underneath it, fold the yarn down, and then we have our twist. So we can do now there is a slight difference between the two. This one you see has the comma, comma, comma here, and this one has bump, bump, bump. And this one has bump, 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 comma, comma, comma. So there's a right and wrong side to this. It's fairly even once you do the first row. But if you want to do a number of stitches cast on, more than a dozen, and you want to have a sturdy base that's not going to stretch, or correction, a sturdy base but that will stretch but not overstretch, and that will be easy to work into, you might want to consider using this twisted base under, fold the yarn onto it, which is really the very same thing that you can do, but you can do it with the yarn being held in your left hand, or if you could prefer, and you can do the thumb too, you can do the yarn being held, fold it over, and we get our twist. So there's a way of doing a cast on that's a single yarn cast on that's suitable for the middle of the row, and that can be worked on the right-handedly or left-handedly.